The last shelter. The world was not quiet anymore. A low rumble shook the ground every few minutes. The sky was always dark, even in the daytime. Dust and smoke covered everything. Buildings had turned into broken walls, streets were empty. And somewhere in the middle of this broken city, a woman held her children close in a small underground shelter. Her name was Amira. She was not a soldier. She was not a hero. She was just a mother trying to protect her son and daughter from the monsters that had come from the sky. The shelter was cold and silent. Only the sound of the children's breathing filled the space. Her son, Sammy, was 6. Her daughter, Lena, was 4. They were scared, but they didn't cry anymore. They had no tears left. Amira looked at the metal door above them. It was shaking. "They're near," she whispered to herself. The aliens, called Draxians, had come 3 weeks ago. They destroyed cities and burned forests. They didn't speak. They didn't ask. They just killed. No one knew why. Some said they wanted the planet. Some said they were hunting something or someone. All Amira knew was that they had taken everything. Her husband, her parents, her home. Now she only had her children. She hugged them tighter. Her own body was thin now. Food was almost gone. The air smelled of metal and blood. Still, she didn't sleep. Not fully. She stayed awake most nights, listening to the sounds above. A loud screech came from outside the shelter. Amira's heart jumped. She quickly placed her hand over Sammy's mouth. He didn't make a sound. Her other hand reached for Lena's shoulder. "Shh," she whispered. From above, a heavy thud echoed. Something large had landed. Amira held her breath. Then came the sound she feared most. The scanning beam. A red light passed over the metal door. It blinked, then stopped. A robotic voice said something in a strange language. Then silence. Maybe it didn't detect them, but then, bang. The door shook. Bang. Bang. It was trying to break in. Amira moved fast. She pulled her children behind her and covered them with her body. Her back was to the door. Her arms wrapped around them tightly. Her body became their shield. "Don't move," she said. Her voice was shaking. The door began to bend. Something sharp pushed through the metal. A long black arm. The Draxian was inside. Amira closed her eyes. She waited for pain, for death. Then, suddenly, a blinding light burst through the cracks above. Everything stopped. The alien hissed loudly. It turned its head upward. Amira opened her eyes. Through the hole in the ceiling, the sky had turned white. No, not white. Torn. Like someone had cut it open. A massive crack in the clouds spread wide, glowing blue. It looked like a wound in the sky. And something was coming out of it. A ship. But it was not like the Draxian ships. It was round and silver, and it moved silently. Light poured from its sides. It hovered above the shelter. The Draxian inside screamed and ran out. Amira pulled her children closer. She didn't understand what was happening. But she knew something had changed. The ground shook again, this time not from fear, but from power. The ship above made no sound, but her body could feel it. A strange energy passed through her, like the air had become alive. Then, a voice, but not from the ship. The voice was in her head. "You are not alone. We found you." Amira looked up, tears filling her eyes. For the first time in weeks, she felt something new. Hope. She kissed her children on their heads. Outside, more ships came through the sky. The Draxians began to flee. Amira didn't know who these new beings were or why they had come now, but she knew this. She had protected her children. And now, maybe someone had come to protect them all. But deep in her heart, she also knew something. Else this was not the end. This was only the beginning. The visitor from the rift Amira woke up in light. It wasn't sunlight. It was soft, white, and clean. The air was warm. It didn't smell like dust or smoke. It smelled pure. Her eyes opened slowly. The pain in her body was gone. Her hands reached out, but the rough walls of the shelter weren't there. She was lying on a smooth bed inside a round room. The walls glowed gently. A quiet hum filled the air. Amira sat up quickly. "My children," she gasped. Before she could move, a calm voice echoed in the room. "They are safe. Rest. You are healing." Amira looked around. No one was there. "Who are you?" she asked. Her voice was dry and full of fear. The wall in front of her shimmered. A door appeared and then slowly opened. A tall figure stepped inside. He looked human, but not completely. His skin was pale like moonlight. His eyes were silver. His black suit had no buttons or zippers, just smooth lines and a strange glowing symbol on the chest. He stopped a few steps away and looked at her calmly. "My name is Jalen," he said. "I am not your enemy." Amira stared at him, not speaking. "Where are my children?" she asked again, more firmly. Jalen raised a hand. The wall behind him changed into a clear screen. On it, Amira saw Sammy and Lena asleep in a warm room, smiling in their sleep. A machine glowed beside them. "They are resting," Jalen said. "Your daughter had a fever. She is healing. Your son is strong." Amira's hands shook. Tears came again. "Thank you," she whispered. But then she looked at him sharply. "Who are you really? What do you want from me?" Jalen was silent for a moment. Then he said, "I'm from the future." Amira blinked. "What?" "I came through the rift," he continued. "The tear you saw in the sky. It's a bridge between your time and mine." Amira stood up slowly. Her legs were still weak, but her mind was sharp. "Why come now?" she asked. "Why save us?" Jalen looked down for a moment. Then he stepped closer. "Because you matter," he said. "More than you know." Amira frowned. "What do you mean?" He didn't answer with words. He raised his hand again. The screen changed. Now it showed a battlefield. It looked like Earth, but the skies were red, and giant machines walked across dead lands. Thousands of humans fought side by side against creatures like the Draxians, only bigger, smarter, and more deadly. Then the screen focused on one woman. Her face was older, but Amira knew it was her. The older Amira stood at the front, her arms glowing with blue fire. Behind her, her children, now grown, led armies. People followed them. Aliens feared them. She was a leader, a symbol, the Shield Mother. Amira stared at the screen, her mouth open. "That's me?" Jalen nodded. "Yes, you are the turning point in the war, but only if you survive." Amira stepped back. She didn't understand. She was just a mother. She had never held a gun, never led a group. How could she become that? But Jalen wasn't done. "There's something inside you, Amira. Something old. Something powerful. The Draxians know it. They came for you. Not just for your world." She shook her head. "No, I'm no one." But deep inside, she remembered something. Something strange. A few years ago, during her time as a lab tech, she had worked on alien materials recovered from a crashed object. She had touched a glowing stone once and passed out for hours. The scientists had said it was harmless, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe something entered her that day. "You were chosen before the war began," Jalen said softly. "And now, your children are part of it too." Amira sat down again, feeling the weight of the truth. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. A loud alarm echoed. Jalen's eyes flashed silver. "They found us." "The Draxians?" Amira asked. "No," Jalen said, his voice cold. "Someone worse. A betrayer." He tapped a device on his wrist. A map appeared. One of the safe zones was blinking red. "One of the humans we saved. He works for them. He sent our location." Amira stood again. "Then we run." But Jalen shook his head. It's too late to run, we must fight. Amira's heart raced. Fight how? With what? Jalen looked at her with calm eyes. You already have the weapon. You just haven't woken it yet. He stepped back and the wall opened again. Beyond it was a large room, full of lights, machines, and a strange orb floating in the center. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. What is that? She asked. A memory core, Jalen said. It holds the knowledge of a lost civilization, one your blood is linked to. When you touch it, it will show you everything. Amira looked at the orb. It was beautiful and terrifying. Behind her, she could hear her children waking up. She had no choice now. Not anymore. She walked forward, her hand reached out. And as her fingers touched the orb, the world around her exploded with light. The future war light swallowed her, not bright like the sun. This light was alive. It moved through her body, into her bones, into her blood. Her heart pounded like thunder. She couldn't breathe, but she didn't need to. The light was breathing. For her, Amira wasn't in the ship anymore. She was standing in a vast white space, a memory space. Above her floated a million glowing dots, like stars, but these were memories, voices, knowledge, images, not her own. Suddenly they moved toward her. In flashes she saw them, flashes of a world older than Earth, a people who lived in harmony with stars. They had no weapons, but they were powerful. They used energy with thought alone. But they were hunted for their power, hunted by a race with cold black eyes and metal hearts, the Draxians. And then she saw something terrifying. One of the star people escaped, injured, dying. She carried a piece of her soul inside a glowing crystal. The same crystal Amira had touched in the lab years ago. That piece had entered Amira. Now it was awake. Amira fell to her knees. Her hands glowed faint blue. She gasped, sweating. What am I becoming? A voice inside the space answered. You are the bridge between two species, the last hope. And then the light was gone. She was back in the ship. Jalen stood in front of her. He had a strange look in his eyes. Not fear, but awe. You unlocked it. Amira was breathing hard. Her arms still glowed like small suns under her skin. I saw them, she said. I saw who they were, who I'm connected to. Jalen nodded. And now, you understand why they want you? Amira stood up slowly. The fear in her was still there, but now, beside it was something else. Strength. What now? She asked. Before Jalen could answer, the alarm rang again. A hologram appeared in the room. It showed a fleet of Draxian ships descending from orbit, hundreds of them. They're not just here for you anymore, Jalen said. They've brought an army. They want to end this timeline completely. Amira stared at the screen. How many humans are left? She asked. Not enough, Jalen replied quietly. Most cities are gone, but there are still resistance cells, hiding, fighting, hoping. Amira's fists tightened. She remembered the shelter, the sound of the alien claw, the terror in her children's eyes. Never again. We warn the others, she said. We fight. Jalen smiled. Good, because your children are the key. Amira blinked. My children? They carry your energy, he said. But it's pure, unbroken, stronger. The Draxians believe that if they take your daughter and son, they can control the source. Amira felt her stomach turn. We have to move them, she said. Now. Jalen nodded, then led her into another room. It was full of humans, young, tired, armed. Some had bandages, others had robotic limbs, but all of them stood when they saw her. One of them whispered, That's her. Another said, The Shield Mother. Amira froze. I'm not a leader, she said softly. But then she looked at her children, Sami smiling, Lena holding a glowing cube in her hand, curious and innocent. She looked at the humans around her. Their eyes were empty, until they saw her. Then they held hope. She wasn't a leader, she had no choice. "What's the plan?" she asked. Jalen spoke. "We activate the ancient relay, a machine buried beneath the old capital. It can send a shockwave that pushes the Draxian ships back into orbit. But we need time. Someone has to protect the team." Amira stepped forward. "I will." And so it began. The battle begins. A secret tunnel opened beneath the ship. Jalen, Amira, her children, and a group of fighters moved quickly underground. The walls were old, older than the war, made of stone and metal glowing faintly as they walked. Suddenly they heard it. A voice. Not in sound, in their minds. "You cannot stop us." Amira fell to her knees. Her head burned. "They're here," she said. "Inside our thoughts." Jalen shouted, "Block them, focus your mind." But for Amira, it was too late. In the darkness of the tunnel, a shape moved, a Draxian, taller than the others, with 6 arms and burning red eyes, stepped into the light. "Give us the girl," it hissed, "and we will leave your world." Amira stepped in front of Lena. Her hands glowed. "You want her?" she said. "Come take her." The alien rushed forward. Amira raised her arms. A pulse of blue energy shot out, throwing the creature across the tunnel like a leaf in a storm. The humans gasped. Jalen said nothing, but he smiled. The relay site was near now, but behind them the ground shook. Hundreds of Draxians were coming. The final war was here, and Amira stood at the center of it, the betrayer. The ground was shaking again. Dust fell from the tunnel roof as Amira led the group forward, her children in her arms, her heart racing with every step. Behind them, Jalen and the resistance fighters were carrying heavy equipment for the ancient relay device. They were almost there. The deeper they went, the warmer the air became. Not hot like fire, but charged, like the earth was alive. The walls began to pulse with a faint blue glow. Old power. Ancient energy. Amira could feel it in her skin. Something inside her was waking more and more with every step. But they weren't alone. Not anymore. 1 hour earlier, unknown location. Far away from the tunnel, in the ruins of an old human outpost, a figure moved in the shadows. His name was Carvin, a former engineer. Once human, now something else. His body had changed after contact with Draxian tech. Half of his face was metal and his left eye glowed red. His voice was dry and broken like rust scraping steel. He stood before a hologram. A Draxian commander appeared in it. "The woman is near the relay," the alien hissed. "You will lead us to her." Carvin nodded. "I have waited for this moment. She will not escape me." He looked down at his hand. It was no longer human. It could crush steel. It was made for betrayal, and it was ready. Now, inside the ancient tunnels, the team stopped at a wide chamber. At the center was a giant black stone circle half buried with strange markings on it. It looked like a door, but there was no handle. It pulsed slowly like a sleeping heart. "This is it," Jalen said. "The ancient relay." "Can it still work?" Amira asked. "Only if we power it using your energy," he replied. "You're the key." Amira stepped toward it, her hands shaking. As she touched the markings, the stone lit up. Lines of blue light spread across the floor and walls. The air crackled. Machines hidden in the ground began to hum. But then, everything stopped. The lights dimmed. A sudden darkness filled the chamber. Amira turned around, and there he was. Carvin. He stood at the tunnel entrance, smiling with cold metal teeth. "Hello, Amira," he said. "Did you miss me?" The fighters aimed their weapons. "Don't shoot," Jalen warned. "He's not alone." Behind Carvin, dozens of Draxians crawled from the shadows, clinging to the walls, ceilings, silent and deadly. "Carvin." Amira stepped forward. "You were with us. You helped build the shelters." "I did," he said, until I saw the truth." "What truth?" He stepped closer. That humans are weak, selfish, lost. The Draxians offered me purpose, power, and now, peace. Amira stared at him, her voice low and shaking. You sold your own people. I traded weakness for survival, he snapped. And you are the reason they came. All of this started because of you. He raised his metal hand. They want the source, and I will give it to them. In a flash, he pointed his arm at Sammy and Lena, starting with them. Amira moved, without thinking. Her body glowed brighter than ever before. The pulse from her heart echoed across the room like a storm. Carven fired, but the blast stopped midair. Frozen. She walked through it. Her eyes glowed like stars now. You won't touch them, she said. Then with a roar, she unleashed her power. A wave of energy exploded from her, throwing Carven and half the Draxians into the walls, but the rest began to attack. Gunfire filled the room. The resistance fought hard, but they were outnumbered. Jalen grabbed Amira's arm. You must power the relay now, she nodded, turned back, and placed both hands on the stone circle. A beam of light shot upward. The ground shook. Old machines deep underground roared to life. From beneath the dirt and metal, a tower began to rise. Outside, the skies changed color. A blue dome began to form over the ruined land, a barrier, the last human shield. But all was not. One Carven crawled from the rubble. Half his body burned, one arm gone but still alive. He grabbed a fallen weapon and aimed it at Lena, who stood frozen, alone. Say goodbye, little one. But before he could fire, Sammy stood in front of her. No fear, just calm. His eyes were glowing. The weapon shattered in Carven's hand, and Sammy spoke in a voice that was not his. You are not welcome here. A surge of energy lifted Carven into the air and crushed him like glass. Silence filled the room. Amira turned. She saw her son, his hands glowing. Sammy? She whispered. He looked at her, his eyes slowly returning to normal. I'm okay, Mama, he said and fell into her arms. Jalen looked at the boy in awe. His power is already forming. Amira held both her children tightly. She was shaking, but not from fear. From what she now knew, this was only the first strike. The war wasn't over. The real war was coming, and it would come from the stars. The storm inside the dome over the ruined city glowed like a second sky. Inside there was silence. For now. The relay had activated. The energy shield kept the Draxian ships from entering. Earth had taken a breath, but it was not peace. It was pause. A thin, dangerous pause before the storm. Amira stood in the middle of the stone chamber, still glowing faintly. Her hands were shaking, and her heartbeat echoed louder in her ears than the distant machines. Her son, Sammy, was sitting quietly, staring at his hands. His fingers still sparkled with light. He didn't understand what had happened, and neither did she. Her daughter, Lena, stood near a wall, drawing strange shapes in the dust, shapes that matched the old symbols carved into the stone around them. Jalen watched silently, reading data from his wrist. His expression was not calm anymore, it was fear. What is it? Amira asked. He looked up slowly. You didn't just activate the shield, he said. You woke up something buried beneath it. Amira frowned. What do you mean? This place, he said, tapping the stone floor. It's not just a relay station, it's a vault. A vault for what? He stared at her for a long moment. Then, said one word. A weapon. Nightfall. Temporary base. They had moved into an old underground command center. The survivors set up camp, guarded by shielded doors and scanners. Medical drones checked the wounded. Children slept beside cold heaters. Everyone tried to believe they were safe. But something was wrong. The air felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Amira sat alone in a corner, her hands buried in her face, the memory of Sammy floating in the air. The look in Lena's eyes when she drew symbols no child should understand. The voice in her head telling her she was not just human. She didn't want to be chosen, she just wanted to be their mother. Suddenly, her vision blurred. A high-pitched sound rang in her skull. Her skin burned. Energy. Too much energy. Her body began to glow again, brighter, pulsing in waves. Jalen ran in. "Amira, stop." She looked at him, eyes wide in panic. "I can't." The energy built up around her. The walls flickered, the lights cracked. People began to scream. "She's losing control," someone shouted. Jalen rushed forward, grabbing her shoulders. "Focus, don't let it take you. Listen to my voice," but Amira couldn't hear him anymore. Inside her mind, the core storm. She wasn't in the base. She was floating in black space. A storm raged around her. Blue lightning cracked through a swirling vortex. Voices whispered in languages she didn't know, but somehow understood. "You were made for this. You are the vessel. Open the gate." Then, through the storm, a shape appeared. Not Draxian. Not human. Something else. A being of light and shadow. Taller than a mountain, wearing no face, only a mask of stars. It pointed at her chest and whispered, "The storm is not coming from the sky, it's coming from you." Back in reality, Amira collapsed to the ground. The glow around her faded. The storm was gone. For now. Jalen knelt beside her, breathing hard. "You connected to the ancient signal, didn't you?" She nodded weakly. "What did you see?" he asked. "Something older than the Draxians," she said. "Something inside me, something watching." Jalen stood slowly. "Then it's true. This war isn't just about Earth, it's about a deeper war, one that started before humans even existed. Meanwhile, above Earth on the edge of the energy dome, far above the sky, a group of Draxian ships hovered in silence. Inside the largest one stood a figure in golden armor, twice the size of any Draxian soldier. Its eyes burned like coals. This was the High Reaver, leader of the Draxian horde. A scout approached him. "She has awakened it, my lord." The High Reaver nodded. His voice was like stone breaking. "Then begin the final phase." He turned toward a large pod in the corner of the ship. Inside it was a creature, trapped, chained, frozen. A being of energy and fire, long ago captured by the Draxians during their war with the Ancients. The High Reaver placed his hand on the pod. "Send the Herald to the surface." Back on Earth, a new nightmare begins hours later as Amira and Jalen reviewed maps of hidden human bunkers. A warning alarm screamed. A ship had entered the atmosphere. It wasn't a fleet, just one, but it was massive, and it didn't fly like a ship. It fell, like a meteor. It struck the Earth miles away. The ground trembled even inside the base. Seconds later, the sky turned red. Then came a sound no one could describe. Like a scream, not made by lungs, but by the universe itself. Amira grabbed her children. "We need to go." Jalen's face was pale. "We can't. It's already here." A shadow moved through the dome, faster than light. A figure entered the base. It wasn't Draxian. It wasn't machine. It was something worse. A being shaped like fire and bones. Its body shifted constantly. Its face flickered like a dying sun. Everyone froze. Then it spoke. "You opened the gate. Now we come." Through. The decision. The air burned. The creature that stepped through the shattered dome was not alive in the way humans understood. It had no eyes, no skin, no heart, but it watched. Its shifting body of fire, smoke, and broken time made the walls flicker like an old dream. The humans couldn't move. Even Jalen, always calm, always ready, stood frozen, like his mind was breaking. Only Amira moved. Her instincts screamed. Her children were behind her. The creature's gaze was fixed on them, not her. "Them. Who are you?" she asked. The creature didn't speak with sound. It spoke with pressure. The ground cracked under its voice. "I am not death. I am what comes after." They woke me. They opened the gate when you touched the core. Amira's body began to glow, trying to push it back. But the creature didn't flinch. It wasn't Draxian. It wasn't even from this universe. And it wanted her children. The choice later, in the dark safety of an emergency shelter, Amira sat with Jalen and the remaining resistance leaders. Outside, the world had changed. The sky had turned black again, but not from clouds, from cracks. Cracks in reality itself. The gate was opening wider, and more things were coming through. "We can't hold them," said one of the commanders. "Our weapons are useless. We have to run," said another. "Underground, maybe Mars, anywhere." "There's nowhere left to run," Jalen interrupted. Then he looked at Amira. "You're the only one who can decide what happens next." Amira didn't answer. Her mind was somewhere else. The creature had said something before it vanished. The girl will become the gate. She looked at her daughter, now asleep beside Sammy. Her hands were glowing in her dreams. Lines of light slowly formed under her skin, symbols from the ancient language. Then, she looked at Sammy, who had stopped speaking. He hadn't said a word since he destroyed Carvin. He just stared, like he saw a future no one else could see. The memory of Fire Amira sat alone in a quiet chamber, away from the others. Her fingers shook as she traced old symbols into the dust. They glowed beneath her touch. Suddenly, the chamber changed. She was pulled back into another memory space. But this time, it wasn't from the ancients. It was her own. She saw her childhood, her first steps, her parents, her first love, her marriage, the birth of Sammy, then Lena. The happy moments flickered by. Then came the war, and then came the shelter. She saw herself again, shielding her children with her body. She saw herself choose to protect them or run, to fight or hide, to live or become something more. The memory paused. A voice echoed through the silence. "You will have to choose again." The final offer. That night, Jalen called her to a private chamber. He wasn't alone. The hologram of an ancient being, a surviving consciousness from the lost civilization Amira was connected to, appeared. It spoke softly. "There is one way to close the gate." Amira's eyes locked on the glowing shape. "How?" "The energy inside you must merge with the core fully. It will destroy your body, but seal the gate." "And my children?" "Silence. Their powers will remain. But without you, they will be hunted forever." Jalen turned away. He couldn't look at her. Amira's voice broke. "So I die to save the world, but damn my children to a lifetime of war." The being said nothing, because that was the truth. The voice of a child later, Amira sat with her children by a quiet stream. For a moment, Earth looked alive again. Sammy looked at her. "Mama," he said. "Yes? You don't have to save everyone." Amira frowned. "But what if I can?" Sammy placed his small hand on her chest. "You already did. Every time you held us, every time you stood in front of the danger. We remember, and we can finish it." Then Lena woke up. Her eyes were full of stars. "Mama," she whispered, "they're waiting for us, on the other side, but they're afraid of you." Amira stared. Maybe she didn't need to sacrifice herself. Maybe her children weren't the weakness. Maybe they were the answer. But to unlock their full power, she had to do one thing: let them go. The decision. Jalen stood before the last gate. It had grown larger, like a wound in the world. The creature was coming through again. But this time, someone else stepped forward. Amira. Behind her, her children stood, eyes glowing, bodies floating slightly off the ground. She turned to them. "No matter what happens, remember this. I loved you more than life itself." Sammy held her hand. "We know." Lena smiled. "We're not afraid anymore." Amira stepped to the center of the gate. She raised her arms and let go. All of her energy, all the ancient power, all the pain, all the love. She gave it to the core. And then, she vanished. But her light remained. It flowed into her children, and the gate began to close. The creature screamed, but it was too late. The storm ended, not with death, but with a decision made in love. The final shield, what remains after light. The world did not break. It should have. The sky had torn open. The gate had screamed. Reality itself had bent around the storm that was Amira. And then, in a single moment of unbearable brightness, she was gone. No body, no voice, just light. But that light didn't vanish. It moved. It became. 1 week later, outside the ruins of Earth's last city, wind howled across dead soil. The sky, once split open, had sealed again, bruised, but healing. Draxian forces had pulled back, not by defeat, by fear. Whatever had happened at the core, they didn't understand it, couldn't fight it. Something had changed, something deeper than strategy, something older than war. And somewhere, among the fractured towers and blackened stone, 2 children walked. They were not lost. They were looking for something or someone. The children of the Shield, Sami and Lena, were no longer just survivors. They were legends now, stories whispered in underground shelters and burned-out camps. Children of the Shield Mother, born from war, raised by love, carrying the last light of the ancients. But even legends grow tired. "Are you sure she's here?" Lena asked. Sami didn't speak. His eyes glowed faintly. A silver map flickered in the air before him, hovering just above his palm. "She's not here," he said. "But her echo is." They stood at the center of the relay site, the place where Amira had made her final choice. The circle of stone still pulsed gently. Lena reached out and touched it. Suddenly, a voice filled the air. "You're not alone." It was her, not alive, not dead, but present. Sami dropped to his knees. "Mama." The return of the shield all over the world, strange signals began to appear, messages carried by the pulse of Earth itself, not in sound, in memory. Anyone who had ever known Amira, anyone she had protected, comforted, or saved, suddenly felt her again, not like a ghost, like a force. She had not been destroyed. She had become the final shield, a living energy that now protected the Earth's core from the inside. Jalen, far away in a hidden command center, received the message too. He smiled, eyes wet. She did it. But the danger wasn't over, because now, the Draxians weren't the only threat. The final enemy awakens, from deep space, past the edge of known galaxies. Something watched. The shield had not gone unnoticed. It was not the Draxians. It was older, hungrier, and it was waking up. They had slumbered since the stars were young. Once they had ruled over light and void alike. Now, seeing Earth rise again, they stirred. A name passed between stars. Return to the source. Break the shield. Find the seed. That seed was inside Sami and Lena. The last stand, Sami looked at the broken world around him. Cities gone. Oceans dark. Billions lost. But he also saw something else. Survivors. People rising again. Rebuilding. Uniting. Not through fear, but through memory. The memory of a mother who gave everything. Lena stood beside him. "We're not just the future," she said. "We're the weapon." Sami nodded. "And the shield." They joined hands, and in the sky above the stars blinked. A signal had been sent. A warning to whatever came next. Earth is not unguarded. Earth remembers. The voice of Amira, as the wind passed across the ruins, it carried a soft voice. The voice of Amira. Not loud, not commanding, just warm. They tried to take everything from us, but they forgot what a mother becomes when you threaten her children. And far above the clouds, in a layer of shimmering light wrapped around the planet, Amira watched. Not with eyes, not with anger, but with love, forever the end.